So you decided to make a cosplay and use EVA foam. Well, you're in the right place because I think I can help you. Today, I'm going to be showing you how I got from absolutely nothing and only simple materials such as paper for the templates, a box cutter, and some EVA foam to make this here simple helmet base, which is then extremely customizable and you can get from a Halo helmet, such as what I'm wearing right now, to a Titanfall helmet. Now, the material that I'm going to use is 10mm high density EVA foam for its durability and for its relative accessibility and ease of use. It is a well-balanced material that you can use for all sorts of projects. If you want, you can use other materials. I've made a whole YouTube video about the different materials and methods and techniques that you can use. But today I'm going to be focusing on my specialty, EVA foam. So, first, you're going to need a pattern. Well, let's get to it. I'll send you over to Desktop Wiki to show you how to make a pattern.
So the first templating method involves just masking tape. You put it across your whatever you're templating. In my case, this is the old helmet. And then once you have a full layer of it, make sure that they have overlap so that they're a single piece. You take a marker, you draw over where your lines would be, where your different pieces would connect, and you just peel it off. Now you can transfer it to paper or you can transfer it directly to your foam in order to cut out and glue. Now what I actually ended up doing with this helmet is I just took measurements because most of the pieces are actually just rectangles. I ended up measuring each rectangle in order to get a similar but not exactly the same shape in order to create a simple helmet base instead of a replica of the previous one. You can see what that looks like in the sketchbook right here. Each piece has a certain length and dimensions. So I ended up sketching them out in order to know what my pieces are approximately going to look like. And then with those measurements, I ended up transferring them to a big sheet of paper, which you'll see in a second. Time to transfer the paper. I've got a big roll of paper here that I just cut into a more manageable piece for desk space. And then I took each of the measurements out of my sketchbook and applied it with a ruler onto my paper. I then simply cut out the pieces, and once I have the pieces cut out, I write down their measurements. This is just for me since I'm making a digital version, and then I name them appropriately. This one, for example, is the front middle strip.
Now, if you don't want to bother making your own template, or it is a little too difficult for you because you have nothing to base it off of, you can absolutely go get templates online. There's a lot of places that give away free templates for different pieces of armor or different elements, or you can go buy some. One place which has both free and paid for templates is cosplay.com. They have also made many YouTube videos on how to actually make cosplays. They are the main source of information for beginner cosplayers such as you or when I was starting out. Another great resource is Punished Props Academy. They are also amazing. They are based in the Americas, whereas Kamui Cosplay are Europe-based. So based on where you're watching this from, you might want to switch over the source of information. So let's say that you have your template, whether you bought it, made it, doesn't matter. You want to start transferring it onto foam, right? Hold it there for a second. First, you should make a mock-up. Let me demonstrate.
You basically just take your template out of paper once you've cut it out and stick it together like this with tape or whatever. Tape just tends to work best. So right here you can see that I'm missing a back corner, but that's actually fine because this is just what I was making the template off of.
Now, when it comes to transferring to foam, your patterns, you generally just want to have them as paper cut out. You put them down. You usually want to try to stay within the edges here. So I wouldn't like go, okay, put it right here. But these are like very perfectly 40 centimeters right here. So just to make sure that everything fits onto this one sheet that I have, I'm gonna do it this way. So I'm putting it right up to the corner in my case. Try not to do that though, because it's not great. I'm gonna put a dot at the corner and pull a straight line. Now we are on to the cutting. Now for the cutting, I like to stand up personally. Now what you want to do, especially if you did your lines with a marker, when you're cutting, cut on the inside of the line because that's the size of your paper. When you're cutting, you can just use a box cutter, but you really need it to be extremely sharp. Now there are two options for that. You can either A, get replacement blades, which is what I've been doing for the longest time, or B, you can get a grinding stone. But I found this disc, which serves the same purpose. So you just kind of do a little bit of that, bit of that. You do it a decent bit, and you can go the other way. And you've got a freshly sharpened blade. Important things to note. You want to be making singular, smooth, so I don't have to be as precise right now. I'm just cutting it into pieces. There's one chunk. And you can see with a smooth blade, you get a smooth surface right there. See, they actually did two passes. And you can tell exactly that's one pass here and then one pass that might have even just been a tear rather than a pass with a knife. And it did not go well for them. Now, these two I put like right up against each other. So I'm going to make that really carefully. That's going to be a slow cut. Right there. I am also seeing that this edge here is not quite straight. So I'm going to have to cut that myself, or I can Dremel it away. Try to cut it first. Yeah, that did fine. That did okay. It's going to glue just fine. Now let's do the next. I'm going to be more careful with this one, making sure that I feel the bottom of my desk. And that is a flawless cut. Now, I want to show you a fun little technique that could help you get some sharper bends without really having to cut two pieces of foam, because maybe you want to work a little faster and you want to get a smooth finish on that corner. Well, on this helmet, I did make two sides and they are not exactly the same, which you can probably see right now. On this side, I simply used the template as I made it, cut out each rectangle separately, and glued them together. But on this side, I ended up putting the template together on top of my EVA foam and cutting this little cross shape out of a single sheet. And that looks a little something like that. So how I ended up getting these sharper bends right here is by using a technique that I call channels. So you're going to take your box cutter, and instead of cutting all the way through your foam like you had been doing so far, you're going to take your blade and retract it most of the way in, so that when you're cutting into your foam, you're not cutting all the way through. You're only really cutting about halfway through. So then you have a channel, but that only helps you bend it backwards. So in order to get it to bend inwards and get that smooth finish, you're going to want to cut another line. That line is going to be at a bit of a diagonal, and then it's going to create a little channel at which the foam can bend way more easily, and you can get a relatively sharp bend with a smooth finish. And important factor, keep your blade straight, like very perpendicular, because if it's at an angle, your cut is obviously going to be angled, and generally you don't want that. It depends on your pattern, and it depends on the piece of foam that you're cutting, because sometimes you might actually want that. So the front face plates are going to need to be cut at an angle at the point where they're meeting the middle piece. Be beveled. You don't need to go to full 45. I'm going to go a little less than 45, just in case. It really depends on how much you're bending your piece, and then you should cut the angle accordingly. And also make sure that it's kind of going right up to the corner and it's not leaving like a flat and then bevel.
You've got all your pieces ready, and before you can start gluing them, you have to shape them a little bit, because the shape of the pieces is not enough to keep them, let's say, rounded like you need for a helmet. So you do that with heat. You can use a heat gun if you have one, and that is the ideal option. But if you don't have a heat gun, a blow dryer for your hair will not work. What will work is a clothes iron. You put a piece of parchment paper between your iron and your foam in order not to damage both the foam and your iron. And then, just like with a heat gun, you turn it to a medium setting to bend the foam. And to prep it for paint and close up the pores so it soaks up less paint, you do high heat. That is called heat sealing, and you generally use it before the painting steps so that it's a little bit easier and you need a few less coats. Here you can see what that actually looks like. I'm heating it with a medium heat here and over bending it in order for it to stick into the right shape, because it will slightly come back still. Time for glue. Now here I am using a form of contact cement because I finally found a good one locally. It is called the Scintillan, and you can see the tube in my hand. But hot glue will absolutely do the trick. I've been using it for 5 years now, no complaints.
Right? See, now that's smooth. That's rounded over, smooth. And here you can see the seam lines. That's not a big deal. It's really not, especially once you do some seam filler and you do all your paint and the whatnot, and you add your details and everything. It's just a little tip for when you can do it. It's just a little nicer, makes the workload easier.
Now it's time to glue both sides of my helmet together. The way that you do that with contact cement is you simply apply the glue in thin layers to both surfaces that you're sticking together. You let it dry for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the contact cement you're using, and then you press the two sides together firmly for about 5 to 10 seconds. Once you've done that, you've got your whole helmet and it's ready to go.
You can put on a visor like this. That's up to you. Then you can add other attachments like an earpiece, maybe an antenna. You could, like, genuinely, this could be a Boba Fett just very easily. Like, the details are all up to you. So, did you follow along? Did you like how it turned out? Tell me in the comments. Let me know how it went. And if you do make a cosplay using my advice or following my tutorials, post it on Instagram.
Tag me, here's my @
I want to see it because I really do like the feeling of community that I want to build. Play with it, make your own custom designs, or make it something that already exists. It really doesn't matter. Cosplay is all about your self-expression. So if you want to go original or if you want to go with something existing, please, by all means, go for it. As for me, I'll see you in the next video. And if you need me, you know where to find me.